If you feel lost, ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in life when you look around and everything feels unfamiliar, like you're standing in a crowd but still completely alone. The dreams you once chased seem distant. The path ahead looks foggy, and a voice inside you whispers, "What's the point of it all?" But let me tell you something. You are not lost. You are simply in a chapter of your story where the answers aren't clear yet. And do you know what that means? It means you are growing. Pain is not a sign that you have failed. Confusion is not a sign that you are weak. And feeling lost does not mean your journey is over. It means you are in the middle of transformation. Like a caterpillar inside a cocoon, struggling in the darkness, not knowing that it is about to become a butterfly. Feeling lost is not failure. It's a phase of transformation. There are moments in life when nothing seems to make sense. You wake up feeling disconnected, as if the world is moving forward while you remain stuck in the same place. You look around and see people achieving their dreams, crossing milestones, and living with a sense of purpose, while you struggle to understand where you belong. This feeling of being lost can be overwhelming, making you question your worth, your purpose, and even your existence. But what if I told you that this very feeling is not the end of the road, but the beginning of something greater? When a seed is planted in the soil, it is buried in darkness. It doesn't see the sun. It doesn't feel the fresh air. And for a while, it seems as if nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, transformation is taking place. The seed is breaking apart, growing roots, and preparing itself for the moment it will rise above the ground. This process cannot be rushed. If you were to dig it up too soon, you would never see it bloom. The same is true for you. Just because you cannot see progress right now does not mean growth isn't happening. We have been conditioned to believe that success is a straight road, that those who have figured it out always knew where they were going. But if you look closer, you will realize that every great story has a chapter of uncertainty. Every successful person has walked through the fog of doubt. The difference between those who rise and those who give up is simple. They understand that feeling lost is not failure, it is part of the journey. Think about a butterfly in its cocoon. In that phase, it is not a caterpillar anymore, but it is also not yet a butterfly. It is in between. And in that in-between phase, it might seem like nothing is happening, but inside, wings are forming, strength is building, and transformation is taking place. It is a stage of preparation. If the butterfly were to rush the process and break free too soon, it would never develop the strength to fly. You are in your cocoon right now, and I know it feels uncomfortable. I know it feels uncertain, but this discomfort is shaping you into the person you are meant to become. Society often teaches us that we must always have a plan, always have an answer, always know what comes next, but life does not work that way. Sometimes the most profound growth happens in the moments of uncertainty. When you feel lost, life is not punishing you, it is preparing you. It is breaking away the old version of you that no longer serves your purpose. It is making space for new experiences, new lessons, and new opportunities that you might not yet be able to see. When you feel lost, it is easy to believe that something is wrong with you, that maybe you are not smart enough, strong enough, or capable enough to find your way. But what if you are not lost at all? What if you are exactly where you are meant to be? The people you admire, the ones who inspire you, they too had moments when they questioned everything. They too had moments when they questioned everything. They too had nights when they cried themselves to sleep, wondering if they would ever find their way. The difference is, they did not stop. They did not let the feeling of being lost define them. Instead, they embraced it. They trusted that even in their confusion, life was leading them somewhere meaningful. Think about a person who gets caught in a storm. The rain is pouring, the wind is howling, and they cannot see more than a few steps ahead. They have two choices. Either they stand still, paralyzed by fear, or they take small steps forward, trusting that eventually they will find shelter. You are in that storm right now. And I know how tempting it is to stand still, to let fear convince you that you will never make it through. But the truth is, storms do not last forever. The rain will stop, the sky will clear, and when it does, you will see that every step you took, even in the darkness, was leading you somewhere. The most powerful transformations in life come from the moments when we feel the most lost, because it is in these moments that we are forced to look within, to question, to grow, to shed the layers of who we once were so we can step into who we are meant to be. This phase of your life is not a mistake. It is not a punishment. It is a phase of transformation, a necessary step in your journey towards something greater. There is a kind of noise in the world that never seems to stop. The constant pressure to move forward, to achieve more, to always have a plan. People wake up every morning, rushing from one thing to the next, filling their days with endless tasks, responsibilities, and distractions. It becomes so normal that the idea of sitting still feels uncomfortable, almost unbearable. And yet, there comes a time when life forces you to stop. When you feel lost, confused, or uncertain about what comes next, the instinct is to run, to fill the silence with something, anything, so you don't have to face the discomfort of not knowing. But what if the answers you are looking for can only be found in stillness? There is a reason why some of the greatest minds, thinkers, and visionaries in history spoke about the power of solitude. It is in those quiet moments, away from the noise of the world, that clarity begins to emerge. But sitting with yourself, truly being alone with your thoughts, is not easy. Because in stillness, the thoughts you have been avoiding rise to the surface. The fears you have buried start to speak. The emotions you have suppressed begin to demand attention. And that is why so many people avoid silence. They are afraid of what they might hear. But the truth is, you cannot find your way unless you are willing to listen. Imagine a glass of water that has been filled with dirt. If you keep stirring it, the water will always remain cloudy. But if you stop stirring, if you let the water sit still, the dirt begins to settle and slowly the water becomes clear again. Your mind works the same way. When you are constantly running, constantly distracting yourself, your thoughts remain in chaos. But when you give yourself permission to stop, to breathe, to sit in the stillness, the noise begins to settle. And in that quiet space, you start to see things more clearly. Society teaches us that stillness is unproductive, that if you are not constantly moving, you are falling behind. But some of the most important decisions in life, some of the biggest breakthroughs, come from moments of silence. Because when you remove the external noise, you are finally able to hear your own voice. The voice that has been drowned out by expectations, by pressure, by the fear of disappointing others. And when you hear that voice, you begin to remember who you truly are. Think about the moments in life when you have felt the most lost. Maybe it was after a failure, a heartbreak, a major change that left you feeling directionless. In those moments, the natural reaction is to look for external guidance, to seek advice, to ask others what you should do, to compare your journey with those around you. And while guidance from others can be valuable, no one can give you the answers that already exist within you. The reason you feel disconnected is not because you lack direction. It is because you have not given yourself the time and space to reconnect with yourself. When you are caught in the chaos of life, your mind is filled with endless thoughts, worries, and distractions. But when you sit in stillness, when you allow yourself to simply be, something shifts. You begin to notice things you never paid attention to before. The way your body feels, the thoughts that keep repeating in your mind, the emotions that have been waiting to be acknowledged. And once you begin to notice, you begin to understand. There is a reason why people seek nature, why they go to the mountains, the ocean, or the quiet of a forest when they need clarity. Nature does not rush. It does not force itself to move faster than it is meant to. A tree does not worry about growing overnight. A river does not force itself to reach the ocean before its time. Everything happens in its own rhythm, in its own time. And the same is true for you. You do not have to force the answers to come. You do not have to rush to figure everything out. Sometimes all you need to do is be still and trust that clarity will come when it is meant to. Stillness does not mean doing nothing. It does not mean you are giving up or wasting time. It means creating space for what truly matters. It means turning down the noise of the world so you can hear the truth that has always been inside you. It means letting go of the pressure to have everything figured out right now and allowing yourself to simply exist in this moment. When you stop running, when you allow yourself to sit in silence, you start to see the patterns in your thought. You begin to recognize the fears that have been holding you back. You start to understand what you truly want, not what the world has told you to want. And with that understanding comes clarity. Not all at once, not in a sudden moment of revelation, but gradually, like the first light of dawn breaking through the darkness. The stories we tell ourselves shape the way we see the world. From a young age, we absorb words, beliefs, and experiences that become the foundation of how we think about ourselves. Sometimes these stories are empowering, reminding us of our strength, our potential, and our ability to overcome anything. But more often, the stories we carry are filled with doubt, fear, and limitation. The words we have heard from others, the failures we have experienced, the pain we have endured, all of it becomes part of a narrative that plays in our minds over and over again. When you feel lost, the first instinct is to look for answers outside of yourself. You seek validation, direction, and reassurance from the world around you. But the truth is, the answers you seek are already within you. The only thing standing in your way is the story you have been telling yourself. If you believe you are not good enough, every opportunity will seem like a test. You are destined to fail. If you believe you are broken, every challenge will feel like proof that you are not whole. If you believe your past defines you, you will keep living in a reality shaped by what has already happened rather than what is still possible. Every person carries a version of themselves in their mind, a version built by memories, experiences, and the words of others. But that version is not fixed. It is not permanent. It is not the absolute truth. It is simply a collection of thoughts and beliefs that you have the power to change. You are not the mistakes you have made. You are not the pain you have endured. You are not the doubts that whisper in the back of your mind. You are whatever you choose to become. Imagine a child learning to walk. They take their first steps, stumble and fall. They try again, fall once more. If that child believed that falling meant they were not meant to walk, they would never get back up. But they do not think that way. They do not tell themselves a story of failure. They simply try again and again and again until one day they take a step without falling. Then another, and before they know it, they are running. Somewhere along the way, you forgot that lesson. You started telling yourself that failure meant you were not capable, that pain meant you were not strong, that uncertainty meant you were lost. But what if none of that was true? What if the only thing holding you back was the belief that you could not move forward? The mind is powerful. It will believe whatever you repeat to it. If you constantly tell yourself you are not enough, your mind will look for evidence to support that belief. If you tell yourself that you are incapable, you will hesitate to try. But if you tell yourself that you are learning, that you are growing, that you are capable of more than you can imagine, your mind will start to find evidence for that as well. The words you speak to yourself are shaping your reality every single day. Think about a time in your life when you overcame something you once thought was impossible. Maybe it was a situation where you felt completely powerless, yet somehow you made it through. Maybe it was a challenge that seemed too big to handle, but step by step, you found a way forward. In that moment, you were not thinking about the doubts, the fears, or the voices that told you it couldn't be done. You were simply focused on taking the next step, and because of that, you moved forward. But when the mind is filled with stories of doubt, it becomes difficult to see that strength within yourself. You begin to focus only on the times you have struggled, on the times you have fallen short, on the moments that made you feel small. You forget about the moments when you rose above the pain, when you proved to yourself that you were stronger than you ever imagined. Rewriting the story you tell yourself does not mean ignoring the pain you have been through. It does not mean pretending that struggles do not exist. It simply means shifting the way you see yourself within that story. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances, start seeing yourself as someone who has survived, who has learned, who has grown. Instead of telling yourself that you are lost, Start telling yourself that you are in the process of becoming. Instead of believing that your past defines you, start believing that your future is still unwritten. The words you use to describe yourself matter. If you constantly speak of yourself with doubt and limitation, that is the energy you will carry. But if you start speaking of yourself with kindness, with belief, with the certainty that you are capable of more than you know, you will start to feel the difference. It is not about pretending that everything is perfect. It is about choosing to see yourself as someone who is still growing, still evolving, still moving forward. Your life is not a story that has already been written. It is a book with pages still waiting to be filled. The question is, what kind of story will you choose to tell? When you feel lost, the thought of moving forward can seem overwhelming. The weight of uncertainty presses down on you, making even the smallest decisions feel impossible. You start to believe that unless you can see the entire path ahead, there is no point in taking the first step. But life does not work that way. Clarity does not come before action, it comes because of action. The way forward is not revealed all at once, but step by step, moment by moment. Even if you do not know exactly where you are going, even if fear whispers that you will never find your way, the most important thing you can do is take one small step. There is a tendency to believe that change has to be big, that transformation must come in the form of grand gestures, sudden breakthroughs, or dramatic shifts. But in reality, the most powerful changes begin with the smallest actions. A single decision, a single effort, a single moment of courage can be the beginning of something extraordinary. The problem is that most people wait. They wait until they feel ready, until they have everything figured out, until the fear disappears. But waiting only keeps you stuck. The only way to break free from the feeling of being lost is to move, even if it is just a small step. Think about someone lost in a dense forest. If they stand still, consumed by fear, they will remain in the same place, surrounded by uncertainty. But if they take just one step forward, then another and another, eventually they will find a path. It may not be the path they expected, and it may take longer than they hoped, but movement is the only way to find direction. The same is true for you. Even if you do not know exactly where your steps will lead, moving forward is the only way to discover what is possible. The idea of taking action without knowing the outcome is frightening. The mind craves certainty. It wants guarantees, reassurance that every effort will be worth it. But certainty is an illusion. No one knows exactly what the future holds. The people who succeed, the ones who rise from moments of confusion and doubt, are not the ones who had all the answers. They are the ones who took a step even when they were afraid. Think about a child learning to swim. They stand at the edge of the pool, hesitant, uncertain if they will sink or float. If they let fear control them, they will never step into the water. But the moment they take that first step, something shifts. They begin to realize that the water will hold them, that their body will learn to move, that they are capable of more than they believed. But they would never have known this if they had not taken that first step. There will always be fear. There will always be reasons to wait, to hesitate, to convince yourself that now is not the right time. But fear is not a reason to stop. It is simply a sign that you are stepping into something new. Fear does not mean you are incapable. It means you are growing. And growth never happens in comfort. It happens in the moments when you push past doubt, when you do something despite the fear, when you choose to move forward even when the path is unclear. One small step can change everything. It does not have to be perfect. It does not have to be dramatic. It just has to be something. A decision to wake up earlier. A choice to start a project you have been putting off. A commitment to take care of yourself, even in the smallest way. These little actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they create momentum. And once you have momentum, once you start moving, everything begins to shift. There is a reason why people talk about the power of starting. Because starting is the hardest part. The first step is where the most resistance lives. But once you take that step, the next one becomes easier. And then the next, and the next, until one day you look back and realize how far you have come. The mind will try to convince you that taking small steps is pointless. That if you cannot change everything at once, it is not worth trying at all. But that is a lie. A seed does not become a tree overnight. A river does not carve a canyon in a single moment. Growth, transformation, and change happen through small, consistent actions. What matters is not how fast you move, but that you keep moving. Every great journey begins with a single step. Every success story starts with a moment of uncertainty. Every person who has ever overcome struggle, doubt, or confusion has done so by taking action, even when they were afraid. And the same is possible for you. You do not need to have all the answers. You do not need to know exactly how things will unfold. All you need to do is take one small step, and then another and another. Pain has a way of making you believe that you are alone. When you are struggling, when life feels overwhelming, it can seem as though no one truly understands what you are going through. The weight of your emotions feels too heavy to carry, and you begin to isolate yourself, thinking that no one could possibly see the depth of your struggle. But the truth is, you are not alone. You have never been alone. When you suffer alone, you have never been alone, even in your darkest moments. Even when it feels like the world has turned its back on you, there is always someone who cares, someone who sees you, someone who is willing to stand by your side. But when you are in pain, it is easy to believe the lie that no one will understand. It is easy to convince yourself that your struggles are yours to bear alone, that no one else has ever felt the way you do. And because of that belief, you pull away. You hide your pain behind a smile. You tell people you are fine when deep down you are breaking. You sit in silence, hoping that someone will notice, but fearing what might happen if they do. You build walls, thinking they will protect you, when in reality they only trap you in your own suffering. Pain thrives in isolation. It grows in the darkness, feeding off the silence, convincing you that you are unworthy of love, support, and understanding. But the moment you reach out, the moment you allow someone to see the real you, something shifts. The weight does not disappear instantly, but it becomes lighter. Because pain shared is pain lessened. And even though it might feel like no one understands, there is always someone who has walked a similar path, someone who knows what it is like to struggle, someone who is willing to sit with you in your pain and remind you that you are not alone. Human connection is one of the most powerful forces in the world. It has the ability to heal wounds that nothing else can. A single conversation, a single moment of vulnerability, a single reminder that someone cares can change everything. But connection cannot happen if you do not allow yourself to be seen. If you keep pretending, if you keep pushing people away, if you keep convincing yourself that no one will understand, you will only deepen your own suffering. The first step toward healing is allowing yourself to be open, to be honest, to admit that you are struggling. It takes courage to let someone in. It takes strength to say, I am not okay. But that kind of vulnerability is not weakness. It is one of the bravest things you can do. Because when you open up, when you let someone see the truth of what you are feeling, you give them the chance to remind you of something you may have forgotten. That you are worthy of love and support. That you are not defined by your pain. And that no matter how lost you feel, you do not have to find your way alone. The people who love you do not expect you to be perfect. They do not expect you to have everything figured out. They simply want to be there for you, but they cannot help if you do not let them. They cannot support you if they do not know what you are going through. The world is full of people who care, people who are willing to listen, people who want nothing more than to remind you that your life has value, but you have to be willing to let them in. Think about the times in your life when you have been there for someone else, when you've been there for someone else, when a friend, a family member, or even a stranger was struggling and you offered them kindness, understanding, or simply a listening ear. You did not see them as weak for needing help. You did not think less of them for feeling lost. You simply showed up for them because that is what love does. And if you can offer that to others, why do you believe that you are any less deserving of it yourself? It is easy to tell yourself that your pain is too much, that no one wants to hear about your struggles, that you should keep it all inside. But imagine if the people you love felt the same way. imagine if they were struggling and convinced themselves that they had to go through it alone, would you not want them to reach out? Would you not want them to know that they do not have to suffer in silence? Then why do you deny yourself the same kindness? The truth is, no one gets through life alone. Every person you admire, every strong and resilient soul you look up to has had moments when they needed someone to lean on. They have had days when they felt like giving up, when they questioned their worth, when they doubted whether they could keep going. And do you know what helped them through it? Connection. The simple act of being seen, of being heard, of knowing that their pain was not theirs to carry alone. Reaching out does not mean you need to have all the right words. It does not mean you have to explain everything perfectly. It simply means allowing yourself to be honest. Maybe it is a text, a phone call, or a conversation that begins with, "I don't know how to say this, but I need someone to listen." Whatever it looks like, the act of reaching out is what matters. Because the moment you do, you break the illusion of isolation. You remind yourself that you are not alone. You open the door to healing, to understanding, to the possibility of finding light even in the darkest moments. There is so much strength in vulnerability. There is so much power in allowing yourself to be supported. You are not meant to go through this life alone. You are not meant to carry the weight of your struggles in silence. There is love waiting for you, understanding waiting for you, connection waiting for you. But you have to be willing to take that first step. You have to believe that you are worthy of being seen, of being heard, of being held in the arms of those who care. Because you always have been.